Hey friends, welcome back to DIYs with Sonja. If you're looking for the best high-end DIYs of the year, you're in the right place. Today I've rounded up 25 stunning DIYs you have to try in 2025. These are the absolute favorites, from beautiful seasonal decor to fun timeless pieces that will give you that designer look for way less. Before we jump in, I just wanted to take a moment to say thank you for all your support this year. Whether you've been here since the beginning or you're brand new to this channel, I appreciate every single one of you for watching, liking, DIY, and DIYing along with me. So grab a coffee, get cozy, and let's dive into the incredible collection of DIY inspiration. Let's make 2025 our most creative year yet. Oh, and if you love budget-friendly high-end decor and stopping by for the very first time, be sure to hit that like button and subscribe so you don't miss out any on all the exciting DIYs coming next year. And welcome back to my channel. Welcome if you're new. My name is Sonja, and today I'm super excited to be bringing you a video that I have been trying to make for a while. I just needed a lot of time because I knew it was gonna take a lot of time to get this done. So we are going to be making some papier-mâché bowls, two different types of bowls. One I'm going to use a mold type of thing, and the other one I'm going to mold an existing bowl that I have. And the type of paper mache that I'm going to be using is equal parts of water and glue to toilet paper. I went out and bought loads of toilet paper. I did only end up using 4 rolls altogether for the 2 projects, and I had a little bit left over. But this was very simple to do. Pretty much everything was on hand. I have a big jug of school glue from my daycare, so I was able to use that, and then water and obviously toilet paper. And I just bought the cheapest toilet paper at the supermarket. So you want to mix all of this together and to create almost like a clay type of consistency. And you don't want it to be too wet. If it's too wet, you might want to drain some of the water off. I also want to mention that today's video is in collaboration with one of my best friends here on YouTube as well as in real life. Sandra, she just lives a couple streets over from me. We used to live on the same street, and her channel is DIYs at the Schwarman's Nest. If you have not checked out Sandra's channel, make sure you do so. She is super talented and truly an inspiration to me when it comes to all things DIY. She is someone that I can always count on in figuring things out with me if I need an advice on DIYs or really anything else in life. So make sure you check her out. I will leave a link to her channel down below so you can check out this video as well as any other video that you might be interested in checking out. Make sure you check out her shorts as well because they are really, really good. So me and her were talking about how we wanted to try out some of these paper mache projects that you see all over the high-end stores, and they're quite pricey. You can even buy some off of Etsy, and but I just thought that I could definitely make this out myself for a lot cheaper. So here are some of my inspirations that I'm going to be trying to recreate. And like I said, I'm using toilet paper, glue, and water. I think Sandra might be using a different type of paper mache materials, so make sure you check out her channel. Like I said, her channel will be linked down below. That way you can get a couple different ideas on a couple different things you can use to create our projects. So for my paper mache, like I said, I'm using toilet paper and glue and water, and you just want to kind of get that clayish consistency. You want it to be wet, but not like dripping wet. The toilet paper does dissolve quite quickly, so you will be able to see how much of it you actually need. And keep mixing it until you reach that paste consistency. For my first project, I'm using this bowl to create a mold, and I'm going to add some clear cling wrap onto it, but I did have to use a little bit of tape just to keep it in place because I did find that it was moving for me a little bit too much. So I guess you could probably use parchment paper too, but I'm pretty sure you would have to tape that up as well. And this did give it a little bit of more of a smoother finish on the inside. I do want to mention that if you are planning on doing this project, give yourself at least week and a half for it to cure. Mine took about for this bowl, it took about a week. For the other one, because there were 2 steps to it, it took a week and a half, and I did end up having to put it in the oven to cure as well for about 40 minutes while it was running at 200 degrees, and then I let it just sit in it until it was until I was ready to use it. I turned off the oven, so it sat in a warm oven for a couple hours. Now, when I'm creating this bowl, I wanted one side to be a little bit longer or taller, and the other side to be a little bit shallower, so that's why you have 2 different sides. And you can, don't worry about being perfect on the edges, because you can always cut them down, sand them down a little bit to the size that you need it, or to have it as clean cut as you want it. So here is what mine look like all finished, and you just want to cover all the spots so you don't have any holes. And now it's time to dry. So while that's drying, I'm going to be working on this bowl. I've had this bowl for a very long time. It kind of got damaged over the years, so I'm just giving it a good cleanup, and I'm going to cover it up with the papier-mâché. I'm not creating a mold, so I don't need to put any cling wrap onto it. I'm just going to start adding papier-mâché, spreading it out, and making sure that, especially on the inside, all the areas are covered. You kind of want to make sure all the there's no holes in it, whether it's on the inside or the outside. And if you want to smooth it out a little bit more, you can always wet your hands and go over it with a wet hand more. I was okay with having it look a little rougher because I was adding some antiquing wax to it, so I wanted to bring out the roughness out a little bit more with the antiquing wax. I did work on the inside and the top first, then I let that dry, and like I said, it took I waited for about a week and a day, and it was still a little wet on the inside, but I was able to flip it over because the top was dry, and then I worked on the bottom part of it, and that took a couple days. There was just a small amount of stuff that I had to add, and it took, like I said, 3 days in, it was still wet, so I did end up putting it into the oven at 200 degrees, and I let it cure for about 40 minutes, and then I turned the oven off and just left it in there for a couple hours until I was ready to add some antiquing wax to it. this is what the other side looks like, and I'm working on covering that up. And I also have a couple spots left that need to be covered up as well, because it was kind of hard to flip it over without damaging the parts that I had covered before it got dry. So I'm just going to cover those up now. And I'm not gonna lie, this DIY was very, very relaxing to me to make. I quite enjoyed just molding it and smoothing out all the areas, and it's just, I found it very, very relaxing. And here it is all done, and now I'm going to let that cure for a couple days. And while that's curing, this one had cured and it's dry, so I'm just going to cut off some of the parts that are kind of sticking out. I still want to keep the roughness on it. You can even smooth it out by sanding it a little bit if you want more of a smoother look. I'm going to add some paint, very watered down paint, because my paint was dry. So I just added some water to it to loosen it up, and it's just a light beige color. This part can be up to you how you want to paint it, or even add some wax to it. Really, you can go gray, make it look more a little bit like concrete. Totally up to you. I'm going to go with more of a antique look by adding, like I said, some of this beige, and then I'm going to go in with a little bit of dark wax just to add a little bit of character to it. So I was trying to cover up as much of that white because I really didn't want too much of it showing. So I did use, as you saw, a brush as well as a sponge just to blend everything in and get into all the little crevices. I am so happy with the way this piece turned out. It's so unique and one of a kind, and I can't wait to use it in my decor. I think it's gonna look really good with some little fillers in there, maybe a little bit of potpourri, or even a nice candle to sit on it as a base, or a cover for the candle, as a tray, I guess. For the bowl, I have decided just to use the wax, the Annie Sloan dark wax or antiquing wax, and I did go with a brush first, and then I do move on to the sponge as well, and I am applying lots at the beginning and then just trying to spread that all out. And then I'm going to go with a sponge and just accent a little areas where there's like a clumping of the paper mache, just to make that pop out a little bit more. I did end up using this wider brush. I just think it made the job go a little bit faster. And I think the Bristol brush, the little chippy brush, would work well as well. So the inside is almost done, a little bit more blending, and now I'm going to do the outside. I really do love the way this was shaping out, and like I said, you can do this any way you want. You can leave it just white, you can paint it one solid color, you can use a couple different colors and blend to make it more like a concrete look. The world is your oyster how you want this to turn out. I went with more of this look because it kind of goes well with my current decor. Well, I hope you guys enjoyed these quick and easy paper mache DIYs. Make sure you check out Sandra's channel because she will have even more to share with you, so that way you can get tons of inspiration for your next DIY project. If you're not subscribed to my channel, please, I would love it if you consider subscribing, becoming part of my YouTube family. I share tons of high-end dupes here, as well as furniture makeovers and some Dollar Tree DIYs, so I hope you find something that you enjoy. And here is how this looks, and I think I'm going to keep it on my coffee table in my family room. I'm not sure if I'm going to add anything to it because I just love it as it is. Well, I hope you enjoyed this video. Give it a thumbs up if you did, and again, don't forget to check out Sandra's channel, and I will see you all in my next video. Thank you so much for watching. I appreciate you all so much. For my very first high-end dupe, I'm going to fill this pot up with water because I need to melt some candle, because I'm going to be recreating these candles. As you can see, they go up to in price to $89, which is a little bit too much, but I absolutely love how just how cozy they feel, and they don't feel like Valentine screaming in your face. So I had this candle on hand, and then at Dollarama I found this heart-shaped bowl for $4. It was in with all of their kitchen ceramics, so I thought that was a pretty good dupe for the other candles. So I melted my candle, and then I'm going to use the wick that was in there and just add it to the bowl. I used a little bit of just some of that candle wax as glue for the bottom of the candle, for both the one that had the little metal piece and for the other two, just to keep them in place. And I'm also using chopsticks just to wrap the wick around. The one thing that I'm going to say with the wick wasn't very waxy, so it did cause a little bit of an issue, but nothing too much. But I should have picked up another candle because there wasn't as much of wax as I would have liked it to. So just keep that in mind. If you want to have the bowl full, get another candle. You can also get scented candles, or if you want, you can add some of your own scents, like the essential oil scents. Now I always get a little confused with that because I've read that certain essential oils cannot be used in the candles because of their smoke point or something like that. I don't know. So just make sure you research that and use the right stuff. So this is it for this dupe. It was very easy. You just want to allow it to cool off, and that's it. That's all it took, and it cost me literally, if I were to fill it up completely, it would cost me $7 to do so, because 2 candles would be $3, and then the bowl was $4, and I think that's much better deal and leaves room in my budget for other things. I also want to let you guys know not to forget to trim the wick. I left mine out because I'm going to be adding more wax. Aside from the candle was another one of my favorites. So I picked these hearts up for $2.75. So then the one had another heart on it, so I just needed to pop that off because I'm going to be recreating this Artisan handcrafted heart object. So I think this would look good on your shelf in your hut, or if you have any floating shelves. I think that's or just beside a vase on a table. I think it's just such a nice piece. There are 2 ways that you can do this. I'm going to show you one way, and then I'm going to tell you about the other way, or I'm going to tell you about the other way first and then show you how I did it. So the first things first, you want to glue these. You can use your hot glue, you can use Gorilla Glue, whatever glue you have. You can use both, just don't put them over top of each other. And then I put my water bottle on top of it just to keep it in place while the hot glue was setting, so it wouldn't come apart. So the one way that you can do it is do a drywall compound and just put it all over it, so you can get lots of nice texture on it. That's one way of doing it. My way, because I did not have any drywall compound, what I thought I did, but it kind of dried out. So I'm just going to take my white paint and I'm going to add a good amount of cornstarch, not as much as ended up falling into the bowl, because you're going to see I'm going to end up putting some of it back, but a good amount. You wanted it to be thick. You want it to be able to give you that texture. You could also papier-mâché this if you really wanted to, or you can. I didn't need to put any color blocking on it because I found that because the paint was so thick, none of the redness leaked through. But if you were just to paint it, I would use some sort of a color blocker so your paint doesn't leak through. Also, one advice is the foam brush did work really well on here, so no need to use a bristle brush. And also, one more tip is to leave one side unpainted, because until all the other sides dry, then paint that one, because as you will see, it's gonna get really messy. So if you want to keep things clean, don't paint one side so you have somewhere to hold. When you're painting, don't be shy. Apply a generous amount so you can cover the cracks. So you can get all those little textures on there. Like I said, don't be shy. Go every direction possible and just have fun with it.
For traffic lights. And I really wanna know if I will ever figure out where the road goes. If Even if I'm falling down, I will keep on searching for my highs. You can say I lost my mind.
So I absolutely love with the way this turned out. I could put a little bit of drywall compound on the cracks so you can see them, but other than that, I'm starting this DIY with I think my favorite project of the three, and it will be this bunny print. I had found this bunny on Canva, and I had actually switched it to black and white, and I also cut off a part of his body, so just the head is in the frame. And then I picked up this canvas over at Dollarama. You can get them at Dollar Tree, I'm pretty sure, as well. I love using these because they have a really nice frame. It's not the best quality frame, but I love using it, and I have made so many different signs with it, and it seems to hold up throughout the seasons. I will be removing the canvas because I do want to expose the little wood frame. I am just marking it off where I'm going to cut the canvas. I'm just using regular scissors, and as you can see, when I flipped the wood part, it actually has a really nice looking frame with a little bit of definition in it. So what you want to do is you want to cut the canvas around the marked section, so that way it fits, the frame fits right on top of it. You are going to flip it to where you're going to be adding the print on, so that way you're adding it on to the correct size. And I'm quite impressed that I actually cut it pretty close. Usually there's a flap overlapping, and this time it looked perfect. So I'm just going to mark off where it's kind of the frame's going, just so I know how to glue the print onto it, so that way I'm not covering any parts of the print with the frame. For attaching the print, you can use school glue. You can use I don't think I would use hot glue, but I ended up using Mod Podge because I wanted to add some on top of it as well. But you can totally just use school glue if you wanted to. And I'm cutting this out because when I printed it, my printer left some sort of an ink mark on top of right above his head. So I just want to remove that. You could totally leave the whole piece as is and just glue that on, because you are gluing it just right on white, so it wouldn't really matter. But I cut it out. I didn't cut it like perfectly right up against the line, but I did cut it up, leaving a little bit of a white border around it, just so I wouldn't mess up. So I've never had luck with these Dollar Tree foam brushes. The bigger ones are okay, but these little ones, they're not a very good quality. There's too much empty space on top, so it has no structure to it. So whenever I'm applying paint or even glue, it just doesn't work. So I'm just switching out the brush and then applying a generous amount. You want to cover all the areas so that way it goes on pretty nicely. I would also like to mention that today's video is part of a collaboration that's hosted by C from Siege DIY. It is a very large collaboration called Easter Around the World, and I encourage you to check out the playlist, which will be linked down below, as well as C's channel. I will have her channel linked down below to get tons and tons of spring and Easter DIY inspirations. Once I had it on a canvas, I added some Mod Podge over top of it as well. You should probably wait till this dries. I don't have such patience, and I just went ahead and did it right away. And then I proceeded on gluing the frame, and I am using hot glue to do that. You want to be careful that you put it right exactly where you want it to go. This tends to be sometimes an issue for me, and I mess up in this part as well, but I did take my time and made sure I put it exactly where I wanted it to go. And there you have it. I think this turned out so cute. I absolutely love the way he looks. You can find these prints where I live at Bouclair, and they are around $20-$30. Mine was about $2, and I love them. The next project is a thrifted vase. So this is not necessarily an Easter project or spring project, but I will be using this vase to decorate my home with some tulips, and I thought it was fitting because of the spring decor that I'm going to be using it in. So I'm going to give this vase a coat of this charcoal gray paint. It's a chalk paint. I love painting with chalk paint because it usually you only need one coat. I did need to mix mine up a little bit because it was some of it settled, so it was very watery. So once I gave it a good stir, I was able to paint this with one coat. I picked up this vase for, I think it was $3 at Value Village a while back, and I particularly liked it because it had the grooves on it. And what I wanted to do with this vase, when I was looking for a vase, I wanted it to have grooves because of what I was planning on doing with it. So once you have fully covered your piece, like I said, it took me one generous coat to get that accomplished. I will be adding some dirt. I have some dirt that I put in the house, I think at fall. So now it has had a chance to dry pretty good. When I was using it for one of my fall projects, it was quite wet. But this time it was dry, and I'm going to, while it's wet, cover the whole piece, and then I'm going to let it completely dry before I move on to the next step. This type of DIY, I've seen so many of them over on Instagram, I think more so than on YouTube, just myself. And the vase is a high-end dupe for sure, because these type of vases at Pottery Barn or even is it Anthropology Home or Our House? I don't know if Our House has them, but anyways, they are quite expensive, in hundreds of dollars, and mine was $3, and I had all the supplies. So once it had completely dried, I'm just taking a brand new clean brush, and I am just brushing the vase completely, trying to get all that loose dirt off. I will also be taking a rag and just rubbing it off as well in some spots, just so it's rubbed off more in some spots, less in the other, just to give it a little bit of depth and definition, to give that rustic look. I love these type of makeovers. Like I said, I've made a couple of them, not necessarily with even with dirt, but I have made them with sand. I have made them with flour and cornstarch and all sorts of stuff, and I just think it just gives all the pieces that you're making over more of a rustic look. I especially love doing these type of projects with Christmas ornaments. I think that's one of my favorite things to do. So here it is, all done, and I absolutely love it. You could go one more step and spray it with the sealer. I might do it later. And then here it is with tulips, and I think it looks really nice. I'm going to be using it on my coffee table in my family room because I had a taller glass there with some flowers, and my husband continuously complained that he couldn't see the TV. So the shorter vase will have to be here from now on. For my first project, I'm going to be using this bowl that I picked up at Dollar Tree from their Valentine's section for $1.50, and we're going to be recreating this white marble ruffle bowl from our house at $269 on sale. I obviously am not willing to spend that kind of money, and I'm okay if my bowl is plastic as long as it's stylish looking. I'm not planning on putting any food in here, so I'm good to go with plastic and acrylic paint. So I gave this bowl 2 coats of white paint. You want to give some time in between to dry. You could also buy a glossier white spray paint, and that will give you a bit of the shine like the marble paint, like marble bowls have or marble has. Or you could also spray it with a glossy finish if you want that bit of a shine on it. I was okay with the white dull paint. I quite prefer that look. So I just left mine as is after the second coat had dried. Once I was done painting the second coat, I did let it dry again. And then I went ahead and got some of my craft sponges and my dark wax. You could also water down some brown paint and do this as well. It's all about blending here. So I wanted my brushes to be wet, so it's a little bit easier to blend it up. And I also put some of this wax on a piece of wood. I just had some garden stakes that were all broken up, so I just used that, but you could also use popsicle stick if you really wanted to, just so that way I'm not dipping the wet sponges into the wax directly. So this is antiquing wax, not as a finishing wax, and I just went very lightly on just different areas, because the bowl that from our house does have a bit of a yellowish staining at the bottom, so I wanted to recreate that. You totally don't have to do this. You know, you can recreate it, create whatever you like. You could also add some lines if you wanted to, or like I said, just leave it as is. So this, I took the wax, put it on, and then I flipped the sponge and just used the wet part to kind of blend it in. And then on the areas where I went a little bit heavier, and I ended up adding a little bit of paint, white paint, just to, like I said, just to blend it all in. I love these kind of projects where you can just put your own touches on, and no matter what, every single one of them will turn out differently. I think this is going to look great with some Easter eggs or some spring, even some spring flowers in there. I can't wait to use it. So the next project, I'm going to be making some Easter eggs. I love these moss eggs that I saw at Pottery Barn, but they are $19 for a set of 6, which isn't overly pricey, but I had all of the supplies on hand, so I figured I will recreate. I did make only 3 of them, but a package of eggs at Dollar Tree cost me $1.50, and the moss was free because I had it on hand. But you can totally get a package at Dollarama and Dollar Tree, depending on which one you're looking for, from anywhere from $1.50 to $3. And you are not going to use the whole package, even on the 6 eggs. Well, you might, for 6 eggs, you might use a whole package. So I glued these together, and then I ended up doing 2 different ones because I had 2 different styles of moss, and I just wanted to see how the 2 different mosses will look on the eggs. This is very hard to do without burning yourself. So if you have some protective covers and you can handle wearing gloves while you do this, I highly recommend it. Otherwise, you be prepared, you will burn your fingers. So I believe the first moss that I'm going to be working with is called a deer moss, and I was just trying to scrape off a little bit of the dirt from behind it, just so it's a little bit thinner, not as thick. You don't have to do this. Your eggs will be much larger than once they are finished, which is okay. And then once I had all this moss on there and it was nicely pressed in, and I gave the egg a little haircut just to kind of loosen up some of the flyaways that were on top of the egg. Now then I proceeded on putting this type of moss. I'm not sure what this one's called, and I wasn't an overly huge fan of this one. I thought the other one worked a little bit better, but I thought I'd show you both and you decide which one you would like to use if you decide to recreate this project. I think these eggs will go really well with my decor, as is very earthy and natural decor that I use in my house. If you haven't seen how I decorate my house, make sure you head on over to my home channel, and here it is in that bowl that I created. I think this looks really nice, and like I said, perfect for my decor. And the last piece, this one I kind of decided on a whim to do, is a little ring or napkin ring for your Easter table setting. I saw these at Pottery Barn, and I thought they were so cute. But as you can see, the price of them was not so cute at set of 4 for $56. So I had similar ribbon on hand, so I thought this would work well. So I took some of this wire, cut out 2 pieces, bent it in the shape of an ear, and then I had hot glued. Once I had bent them, I did hot glue them to the ring, and the ring is actually a bath shower curtain ring. I have several of these on hand for the purpose of creating the napkin rings. So I hot glued this. You want to give it a little bit of time so it sets, so that way you don't have a problem with it moving too much when you are wrapping it with ribbon. So for the ring, I did use ribbon as well as just some kitchen twine. So once it had a little bit of time to set the glue, I ended up wrapping the ribbon onto the ear. You could go the other way. I would just make the ears a touch smaller, so that way you can cover it with the width of the ribbon. And then I repeat the same process on the other ear. I do trim off the excess ribbon first on the bottom, and then once the glue had set on both of them, I do trim it around the wire as well, just to shape the ear a little bit better. This does turn out looking a little different, but definitely the idea was there. I was even debating taking the twine and just wrapping it around the ear as well, which is another option if you don't have this type of ribbon. I had this on hand, so I wanted to use it, as it's a bit of a awkward ribbon to use, as it doesn't shape very well. So I was glad that I figured out a project that I can use it on. So once that was on, I went ahead with the twine and just wrapped it around. First, I wrapped it a little bit around the ear just to smooth out, so you don't see the cuts of where I cut the ribbon off. And I'm not putting hot glue everywhere, just in certain spots, so that way it just stays in place. So I would wrap it a couple rows, and then I would put a little bit of hot glue, and then wrap some more, and then a little bit of hot glue, so that way you have somewhere to hold and you're not burning your fingers all the way through, and it does keep things in place. So I will be making 4 of these. I did here just to show you how I'm going to be making it, but I will be creating 4 of these just for our table setting. And several weeks ago I did share quite a bit of table setting stuff that I did, dupes that I've created from Pottery Barn, and I'm excited to use those during Easter festivities, as I absolutely love the placemats as well as the napkins. I'm gonna show you here with a different type of napkin, just so I can show you how the white looks against colored, but I am contemplating using my natural linen ones instead. So here is the napkin ring, and I think it turned out so cute. Well, this concludes my video. I hope you guys enjoyed it. Make sure to give it a thumbs up. Don't forget to hit the subscribe button if you're not subscribed, and I'll see you all in branches in it. For the next DIY, this is super easy. No skills required whatsoever. So I had this pizza tray from Dollarama, and I've used it for several different things. So I just was cleaning it up so it's nice and clean, so the paint can stick to it. And I'm going to be recreating this look. So I think when I got my tray, I paid around $2. As you can see, this is $450. And I happen to have some gold paint left over from Christmas. So I'm going to be painting it, and that will be it. $2. That's all it cost me, and I think it will give me a pretty close look. So originally I was going to use spun gold, and you will see in just a second it wasn't going on the way I had wanted it to go on. Maybe if I added some Mod Podge to the bottom of it, it would the paint would stick better, but I was worried if I added Mod Podge it would cover up all the little dents that this tray had, this pizza plate had, pan had, and I kind of wanted it to have all those dents and bends in it, because I think it would contribute more to that etched look that the original piece had. So once I had discovered that this wasn't going the way I had wanted it to go, I am going to clean all the paint right off of it and proceed with some spray paint. So here it is, and I'm going to spray paint it. I did go outside to do this because I do my DIYs during nap time most of the time, so I didn't and of course you don't want to be spray painting inside, even though I do have a pretty heavy-duty fan right above my craft room. I still didn't want it to spray paint inside. So I give this a decent coat. You might have to go in with another coat, but I will let this dry before I switch it and spray paint the other side. And here it is. I think this is pretty close. Here is a look at the original piece and the inspirational piece, just so we can compare the two. I think the lip is a little bit higher, but I think my spray paint color was pretty close, and I think the look, it did give me pretty similar look. Now moving on to the last DIY. I love using books, decorative books, to decorate either on floating shelves or in my hutch or on top of the coffee table, fireplace, and whatnot. So I had seen this stack of books, and the price is per book. And as you can see, it is $69, which is not overly, budget breaking or whatnot, but I do feel that I can make it for almost free. So I just picked out a book from my book stack. I wanted it to have a hardcover, and I think this one would work really good. I originally wanted to make a couple of them just to give couple different sizes look, but I realized once I started doing gathering my supplies for this DIY that I only had scrap pieces of this drop cloth. I for some reason thought I had a full pack of it. But nevertheless, you can make as many as you want. I'm just going to show you how I made this one, and the process would be exactly the same for all the rest of the books that you would want to make. So like I said, you want to pick a hardcover book. I just think that would be easier to work with, preferably something that's not as bright colored as this, because a little bit was showing. And you could also paint the cover in case if you only have the bright colored books. And then to create that design on here, I am adding a good amount of hot glue and just little strips of it, but you want it to be fairly thick. And you want this to completely dry before you move on to the next step, because you don't want to squish it. I did mine about an inch apart, and then once they were dry, I added Mod Podge in the middle, in between. And then I'm also going to add Mod Podge on top and bottom. And when I'm applying my drop cloth, now this is a linen drop cloth that I picked up at Dollarama. I have used this for many DIYs, from pillowcases to table placemats, all sorts of stuff. Even a tablecloth I've made with it. I just absolutely love this drop cloth and how versatile it is. If you cannot find any at your local dollar store, Home Depot carries it as well. It's a lot bigger pack, and at this point it might even be cheaper than at Dollarama what I was paying for it, because once you calculate the size of the roll. So when you are attaching this, you want it to be very tight, so there's no like loose pieces. It's not curling up anywhere. You want it to go very tight over top of this, so that way it can show all the little designs on it. So once I felt like it wasn't moving as much, I ended up adding some Mod Podge over top of it as well. And then once I finished on the top, I went ahead and added some onto the front cover and the back cover. And to keep the linen in place while the Mod Podge is curing, I did give it a couple dots of hot glue on the inside and folded the linen into it. I actually end up using the hot glue for all the folds, just to make sure that it stays in place. Also going to clip it just to make sure it stays in place. And now I'm going to do the same thing on the other side. Once it was all done, I did go ahead and add some Mod Podge on top of it as well. I mentioned, for the folds, I'm going to be hot gluing them. But here I'm just showing you how nicely the design is showing up. And I'm sure most of you know, I don't know if people did this here as well, but I grew up in Europe. I moved to Canada when I was 16. And when we used to go to school, we used to have to, even in grade, like from 1 to 8, even in high school, we used to have to purchase all of our books, like the math book, the science book, all those books. And in order, because they had to last me a whole year, and the covers weren't hardcover or anything like that, so we used to get some either butcher paper or wrapping paper or just a really nice paper or even newspaper and wrap the books in it to protect the covers. So this is what this had reminded me of doing, is wrapping our textbooks for school. So if you ever wrapped a book, you just do exactly the same thing that you would have done when you were wrapping the book. I think this is going to be such a great addition to my decorating. I'm thinking I might use it on a floating shelf just to lift some decor up, and it will add also a really nice look to it. Well, guys, let me know what you think. I think this turned out really nice. Again, like I said, I absolutely love the way it looks. I think it's going to be such a great addition to my decor. Well, I hope you guys enjoyed this video. If you did, please give it a thumbs up. Don't forget to hit the subscribe button if you're not subscribed, and I'll see you all in my next video. Thanks so much for watching. The first project that I'm going to be creating, I have a tremendous savings here for you. I did pick up this vase for $5, but this is not the item that I'm going to be duping. Over on Pottery Barn, I had found this vase, this look, actually, the vase with hydrangea bundle, and the hydrangea bundles here is $70, but I really love this whole look, and that's what I'm going to be recreating. So as you can see, my vase was a little bit taller and a little bit thinner, but I think I can achieve that same look. Now for the hydrangea flowers, I did get mine out of the garden, and if you let your hydrangeas dry in a vase, they will get that dusty green look to them a little bit, and they do last for quite a while just sitting in a vase with no water or anything like that. But I did look over on Amazon, as well as I've seen a couple of the one Temu had a few for a lot less than $70. I think the most expensive one was on Amazon Canada for about $40, but you get a much larger bundle. So look around your garden. You might find the fall foliage that you like, and it looks really nice in your vase. So to get this vase painted, I am going to be, so as you saw, I mixed white and creamy color paint. This is chalk paint, so it's a lot thicker. I was going to add flour to it to make it even more thicker, but my cream colored old ochre chalk paint was pretty dry, so it was actually quite thick, as you can see. The reason why I mixed the two colors is because the old ochre was too yellowish, and the white was too bright, so I just wanted to kind of tone down the brightness of the white. So that's why I mixed them. And I am applying a fairly thick layer because I want that thickness to show in the vase. So I forgot to mention that I will leave the links to the Amazon hydrangeas that I found in the description box, in case if you wanted to venture out and get some for yourself. Also Dollarama, if you're located in Canada, I've seen hydrangea flowers there as well. I've never seen them at Dollar Tree, but definitely at Dollarama and Michael's store. I did not see that color, although I do know that my mother-in-law had gotten herself some hydrangeas like that a while back, so it's worth looking into it. I was just checking on the website. I think making over vases is one of the most affordable ways to add those look for less high-end dupes to your decor, because they tend to be a lot cheaper at thrift stores, and usually you can find the style of them like the high-end stores have them, and with a little bit of paint you can achieve that high-end look. So right now I am just trying to blend, so there's none of the brush strokes are showing, and I'm just using a crafter sponge to do that. Since I like to show you everything, I will show you this step as well, but I do find that this did not really add much to the vase. I wanted to just darken the certain spots just a little bit, but I didn't want to go too much with this brown because I feel like it has a bit of a purplish tinge to it. So I went really, really lightly just to dab on, but you can completely skip this step if you wanted to and just move on to the next step. And the next step is optional as well. If you want, you can just leave it at this point, or you can go and get some dirt and get dirty. My camera ran out of space, my card, so I had to resort to my phone. So here we are. So all I take is before the vase completely dries, I just add some dirt to it, sprinkle it. You want this to be, for this particular project, you want the dirt to be dry. I've done projects where the dirt is wet and then it just kind of paints everything, but then you can't sprinkle it on and the vase has to be dry. So I let this dry completely, and then once it's dried completely, I take a brush and I just brush the dirt off and kind of try and blend it in a little bit. And that's it. And now I went out to my garden and clipped some hydrangeas, added them to my vase, and here it is on my shelf. I think it turned out so nice, and I think it's a pretty close dupe for the one at Pottery Barn and for a lot less. Moving on to my next project, I have had these pumpkins now for a while, and they've been just sitting in my bin. This one that I'm cutting out is from Dollar Tree that I have painted, and the next one is from the thrift store. That was actually one of my very first fall DIYs that I've ever made on my other channel, and I've painted it in duck egg blue. I'm going to be recreating this look. I absolutely love these candles from Pottery Barn, but at over $100 for a small one, I think it's just a little too pricey. And I'm going to be achieving that look by getting these tealight candles, the battery operated tea lights that I picked up at Dollar Tree for $1.50. So my project cost me $1.50, but if you were to get the 2 pumpkins from the dollar store, it would be extra $3. So again, another project that's coming in under $5, and this is for 2, whereas that's a price for 1. So I think this is a great savings again, and you can get pretty close to that look. So the first thing that I'm doing is I'm just going to cut out holes big enough to fit my tea lights. Now, I was originally going to paint these, but I am quite happy with the color that they are at. I will be whitewashing them just to achieve that look that the Pottery Barn candles have. But I think that will be the extent of this project. There's not a lot of involvement, but if you wanted to paint these, you can definitely paint them any color you want. They don't even have to be the colors that the Pottery Barn has if those colors don't suit your decor. But you definitely want to make sure that you cut the holes big enough that you can stick those tea lights in tightly so that way they don't fall through. But they're not hard to take out because you're going to want to be turning those on and off. So once the holes were big enough for my tea lights, I went ahead and mixed my white paint with some water. And you want this to be fairly watered down so that way you can just brush the paint on and then clean it off. And I will just use a rag to wipe it off. This is a fairly easy thing to do, and I'm adding the paint into the creases, and then like I said, I'm going to blend it or wipe it off with a rag. So I just want to say, if this is your first time stopping by, welcome. My name is Sonja, and here on this channel I share tons of different high-end dupes as well as furniture makeovers, and I am very excited for what the next few months what I have in store for you guys for next few months. So I would love it if you considered subscribing and becoming a part of my YouTube family. I am so very pleased with the way these turned out, and I can't wait to start using them in my decor. And I love the fact that the Dollar Tree tea lights flicker a little bit, so it kind of gives it that even more that high-end look. Now let's dive into the DIYs. Our first project is these gorgeous fall pumpkins inspired by Pottery Barn. You all know how pricey their decor can be, but I found these irregular shaped pumpkins at Dollarama for $5, and the smaller ones were $3.75. And I was able to make them over for large one for under $6 and small one for around $4. I used acrylic paint in custom mix of brown, yellow, red, blue, and white to get that perfect warm fall colors. I applied 2 coats and let them dry completely between each one. You can add some flour or baking soda if you liked texture, but I kept mine smooth, and the stems I left them as they are because they have that perfect whimsical feel, just like Pottery Barn. I painted the others in a cream color as well as a light beige color. But I did that off camera so I don't bore you with all the painting. And I just love how these turned out, and they're perfect for my front porch. If you would like to check out how I decorated my front porch, make sure you head on over to my home channel. Also, I will link a green pumpkin that I DIY'd last year up in the corner if you want to check out that one, how it turned out. Next, I wanted to recreate the stunning bronze cast iron branch from Pottery Barn. Instead of spending a fortune, I went to my garden, found a giant branch, and spray painted it with black and bronze antique paint. I started with solid black base coat, then lightly went over it with bronze, and then followed by another light coat of black. This DIY was so easy, and I love how it turned out. It's going to look amazing in my Halloween decor this year. For our last project, we're tackling these iconic Pottery Barn jack-o'-lanterns. These can cost a small fortune, but I found some thrifty pumpkins and jack-o'-lanterns that were perfect for this project. If you can't find thrifted ones, you can easily use craft pumpkins from Michael's or similar stores. For the paint, I mixed brown, red, yellow, and white to create a custom terracotta color. I carved mine just like a real pumpkin using a marker to sketch the face and X-Acto knife to cut them out. I also cut out a hole at the back so I can add some lights. I'm just using string lights for the pumpkins. And now it's time to paint them and like to give them 2 good coats. And you can use any sponge you want. And as far as the paint, like I said, it's a custom paint. So you just mix the colors until you reach the desired look that you're going for. And also don't forget to, if you are cutting out, don't forget to paint inside the little mouth, nose, and eyes so no white shows. While the first one was drying, I took the time to paint all of my thrifted jack-o'-lanterns that I got from the thrift store. After 2 coats, I let it half dry before sparkling flour over it to texture. Then dusted it off for a rustic age look. I am obsessed how these turned out. I even went ahead and recreated the same look with all the jack-o'-lanterns that I picked up from the thrift store. I think these are going to look amazing on my front porch, especially when I pair them with the jack-o'-lanterns I created last year, which I will link it in a corner for you to check it out. These DIYs were so much fun to make. I am thrilled with how they all came out. Whether you're recreating the pop pumpkins, jack-o'-lanterns, or bronze branch, these Pottery Barn dupes will give your Halloween decor a high-end look for way less. For my next project, I'm going to be making a wreath. Wreaths can be quite expensive, especially from high-end stores, and as you can see, this one at Crate and Barrel is $239, which is way out of my price range. I absolutely love the look of it, and I was very excited when I found these flowers from Dollarama because I thought the leaves were very much the same shape. The color is a little bit different, but that's okay. It's still very much fall color, and I kind of like the burnt orange look. So these were $3. I did purchase 7 of them. I did only end up using 5 of them, so $15. The wreath form on the wreath from Crate and Barrel is a grapevine wreath form. I couldn't find one that was reasonably priced, and I had this one on hand that I got at Dollar Tree for $1.50, so I thought this would work just as good. I'm going to also use some wire as well as some hot glue to attach these stems. So I did cut the stems off just to make it a little bit easier to work with, and I'm going to be adding stems all around on all the wires. So there's 1, 2, 3, 4 of them, so 4 different rows of flowers, and I do have a bit of a color variations with the stems that I picked up. Some are burnt orange and some are more like the burnt green color. So I think it's going to look really nice once I am all done. And this cost me, so I got 5 stems at $3, so $15, and then the wreath form was $1.50 plus some glue, so well under $20 with tax. And I'm very, very excited how it turned out for the same size wreaths. Wreath, I think I did really well. I would love to know what you guys think. So as I mentioned, I used both hot glue and a little bit of craft wire. In some spots, I just added craft wire to hold it in spot or in place while the hot glue, so that gave hot glue a chance to work. But in some areas, I did just use the wire because I was able to wedge it in with the other stems that were already in there. I love making wreaths. I love using wreaths in my decor. I have done many wreaths on my channel before, and I have to say this was probably one of my favorite ones. The way it turned out, it's just so, I think, classy and not tacky at all, and I just love it. And if you really wanted to achieve that burgundy look, you could always get like a plum color paint and paint all the leaves that color. I think that would look good and work good as well, and that way you would really come close to duping the one from Crate and Barrel. But I was quite happy with these colors. I love these colors and using them all throughout the house, and I was left over with 2 stems, which I think I will definitely be using in a vase or maybe creating another DIY. So once I was gone all the way around with these stems, just really trying to make sure that there's no bare spots and trying to like I said, fill in. And I was going the same direction, so all the leaves were kind of drooping the same to the same side, so that way it's a little bit neater. But then once, like I said, once I went all the way around, I did cut some of the stems in half, and I was just filling in the bare spots, so that way there was nothing, no patches of like holes showing through or empty patches of empty spots. And so you could also wedge these into where the wire is, or you can even put a little bit of hot glue on it and then stick it in there. It will stay in place. My wreath was going to be used inside, so I wasn't too worried about wind damaging it if it was left outside. And once everything was covered the way I liked it, I just went around and just fluffed up some of the leaves that were maybe pushed down, pulled them out so they're all nice and fluffy. And also you want at this time to get rid of any hot glue that might have been left on the little strings from the hot glue. And here it is. I absolutely, like I said, love it. I think it's one of my favorite wreaths I have made on this channel. I just love how folly the colors are. And here is the reminder of what the original looked like. So as you can see, the leaves are quite similar to the leaves that I used. The color is a little bit different. Obviously not a little bit different, a lot different. But I love it nevertheless. The last DIY that I'm going to be working on has to be my favorite, and we are going back to Pottery Barn, and I'm going to be recreating this leaf. So it is called the brass leaf object, and this can be on its own or it can fit a candle in there. So I was quite excited when I picked up this leaf thrifting for $2.50. But if you cannot find that one, there is this one at Dollar Tree for $1.50, which I think would work just as well. Because I always feel like chances of finding the exact same thing that I thrifted are very slim. So I like to give you another choice or another option that you could use. So I was going to use an acrylic paint on it. Again, it wasn't really doing the coverage that I wanted, so I went ahead and spray painted it. And I do have a heavy duty fan right above me and a window. It was raining outside, so I just wanted to get it done. And the color that I was using was metallic gold from Michaels. And then I went ahead and added some black antiquing wax to it once it had dried, and just used a brush to add by dabbing it. And then I did go ahead at the end and just kind of did some brush strokes through the wax just to blend it all in. I absolutely love with the way it turned out. I think it's going to look fabulous with my fall decor, and like I said, this is definitely one of my favorites. And as you can see, the color and everything looks pretty close. I know the shape is a little bit different, but I think it gives you the same idea. Well, I hope you guys enjoyed this video. If you did, please give it a thumbs up. Don't forget to hit the subscribe button if you're not subscribed, and make sure you check out Sandra's channel, which will be linked in the description box. So until next time, hope you guys have a wonderful day, and thank you so much for watching. Inspiration for my first DIY came from Maggie & Co, and as you can see, their print was $42, and it is a bit of a different look inside. It's more like the picture says, storm on the lake. Mine is more in the field, but the inspiration was there, and I have found a free printable, which I will link it down below. You just have to sign up for an email for it to be sent to you. I will link the website down below, and she has tons of different prints to choose from. But the Maggie & Co was my inspiration. So I've printed it off, and then I took some Mod Podge and I had painted the picture with the Mod Podge to give it that oil look. As you may know, I'm not the first one to do this, but it is my first time trying to do it. I think I've done it before on gift bags from dollar store when I was adding them to signs and things like that, and this was definitely my first time doing it on a picture that I have printed. I have a laser printer. It is not the greatest printer in the world, but I think the picture turned out really good. And the frame that I'm gonna be using came from Dollar Tree. I would have loved to have found a vintage frame to use at maybe a thrift store, but I wasn't so lucky, so I just resorted to the frames that I had on hand. So my price for this was free, as I just printed a print and everything else I had on hand. And here is the frame that I am using, and I'm going to use spun gold paint to paint with it, as well as a brush and some Kleenex. You can find prints, if you can print them. You can also find gift bags are a great source for sometimes great landscapes or any picture you might want to include in your decor. Greeting cards, something a little bit smaller, and sometimes even placemats. I have found some pretty neat looking placemats at Dollar Tree that could totally be transformed into a picture to put in a frame. And if you are looking for something specific, Etsy is a great place to check for different types of prints, and you can also buy those, download them, and print them just pretty much the same way I've printed this one. I have been wanting to do this for a while, and I just recently bought some new cartridge for my printer, so I thought it was a good time to do it. If you don't have a printer, you can also send it away to get printed. I honestly don't know where I could send mine to get printed in town, because Costco had gotten rid of their photo development center, maybe you can still send it to them. They just don't have it in store. I would have to really look into it. But the size that I was looking for, it was perfectly fine to print it on my printer. So now I'm wiping the paint kind of off and dabbing it on, trying to get into all the crevices. There is a bit of a design on the inside edge, so I wanted to really have that stand out, so that way it has that vintage look. It is an absolutely gorgeous day outside, and I really wanted to do this voiceover out here, but I think every plane has decided to fly over during my voiceover now. So I'm going to try it a little bit more, and if they keep coming, I'm going to have to go inside and do this voiceover. So here it is. I'm just dabbing the paint now just to give it that aged vintage look. And once the picture dries and the frame dries, I'm going to put it together. I have decided to style it in my kitchen to break up some of that white that's my backsplash in the kitchen. I love my backsplash, but sometimes with the counter being white and the backsplash being white, I'm always looking for ways to add color and texture into the space. And here it is. Here it's how it looks. I absolutely love it. It is exactly what I was going for, and the nice thing is at such an inexpensive price, I can definitely redo it for every season. For my next DIY, I'm going to be using this linkable chain from Dollar Tree. I wanted to really include this DIY because right now you can buy these because they are part of the Halloween decor. And I'm also going to be using this metallic gold paint. This piece of decor can be used for fall or really any season. I just wanted to include it now because this is when these are available for purchase at the Dollar Tree for $1.50. So I have spray painted this gold. It took about 3 different turns, so 3 different coats, just to make sure the whole thing is covered. And my inspiration for this came from several places. Amber Interiors has it, Pottery Bar have them, and they're these linkable chains. You can take this apart and have a couple different sizes here, or you can leave it as is, the whole length of it. It's fairly long. I did end up separating mine into 2 pieces, so you could totally create couple different styles of it. You can make it look like wood, you can make it painted black. Really, it is completely up to you how you finish this. I just thought it was such a great purchase for $1.50. It's already linked up for you, and you can take your creativity and so just to have a look at these again. At Amber Interiors, they are around $500. They are different sizes, obviously. And then at Pottery Barn, these rustic wood ones are $289. Mine cost me $1.50 as I had the spray paint already on hand. I think that's pretty good savings, and this way you can make them the color that you want that go with your style. So once I have them spray painted, I brought them inside, and I wanted to make mine look a little bit brassy, so I wanted to add some of this black wax. I was just going to brush it very, very lightly on there just to add a little bit of darkness, just like the brass looks, where it's kind of almost banged up a little bit, has a little bit of a darker spots. So that is what I was adding here. These decorative chains are super trendy now, and you probably seen them besides Amber Interiors and Pottery Barn. McGee & Co. carries them, as well as Anthropology. And as you can see, you saw they are pretty pricey, and making one yourself is so much more affordable. And like I said before, you can choose that perfect finish to match your space. So after applying the paint and wax for that aged brass look, I like to go in with a bit of different gold paint. I'm using yellow gold paint as well as the spun gold paint to really make it pop. Just a light touch of gold in certain areas adds dimension and gives it even more of that authentic brass feel. It is all about layering the details, and the steps makes such a difference. This technique is great because it gives you your DIYs that high-end custom look, like something you would see at these high-end store, but for a fraction of the price. Look at how gorgeous this turned out. The gold paint adds just the right amount of shine without being too over the top. It catches the light beautifully, giving the piece that true vintage brass look. You can see the depth and texture from the layers of wax and paint, making it look like something you'd find at a high-end store. It got that perfect mix of age elegance and modern style. Next up, we're going to work on this adorable pumpkin cutting board look. My inspiration for this piece came from Anthropology, but you can also find similar styles at Bed Bath & Beyond, and even a close look-alike on Etsy. The best part, this cutout came from Dollarama for just about $1.50. Talk about a steal. Now, this one won't necessarily be used as a real cutting board, but we're going to make it look like one. I love decorating my kitchen with these seasonal boards. I've even made one for Christmas, and they're such a charming touch. If you wanted to feel more substantial, you could always add a few of these pumpkin cutouts together to make it thicker. And the fun part is you can stain it any color you like. For this one, I'm going to give it that vintage look by distressing it before I apply the stain. There are a few different techniques that you can do here to stain it. I am using my Minwax gel stain in aged oak just because I had this on hand and it is kind of drying out, so I did want it to use it up so that way I can just toss it once I'm done. You want to move. You can see somewhat of a grain here, so you want to definitely move in that direction. I was kind of going all over the place because I was trying to get the grooves to stain inside as well, but once I'm done I do go with the direction of the stain. You could also water down your paint that you want to use it as a stain. You want to water it quite a bit, apply it, and then wipe it off. That will work as well. And then you can layer it more if you find that it's not quite where you'd want it to be. You can also add darker paint to certain areas that will give it that vintage look. I used a black acrylic paint to add that vintage look, and I added it with a rag and just wetted the rag first, dipped it into the paint, and then went over the edges of the pumpkin, and then also inside all those cuts that I've made. I think this just gives it such a nice vintage look. Like I said, I'm not going to be using these. I have not seen cutting boards. Last year I found a Christmas cutting board at HomeSense for about $20. I have not seen them yet at HomeSense here in town, but I never ended up using the cutting board anyways. It just to put it up, I just put it up against my wall as a part of decoration. So I've decided that I can just do this with my pumpkin that I make here, because I have lots of cutting boards and cheese boards and all sorts of stuff that I can use if I need to use it for anything. This will purely be a decoration. Now, if you have a laser machine or you are very handy in cutting your own stuff, you could definitely cut a pumpkin shape yourself and make your own cutting board with just natural wood. Just make sure that whatever stain or color you put on that cutting board, it is food safe. And here it is, friends. I'm absolutely in love with how this pumpkin cutting board turned out. The distressing really gives it that vintage, well-loved look, and the stain adds a beautiful, rich color that's perfect for fall. It looks just like something you'd find at Anthropology. I was very excited to use this as part of my fall kitchen decor. It's that perfect seasonal touch that adds warmth and charm to the space. A ton of bottle brush trees. Some I bought, some I had on hand, and also this board that I had on hand, because we are going to be recreating this lit bottle brush tree centerpiece from Papier-mâché. It goes for about $183, as you saw. Now, some of these bluish green bottle brush trees, I don't love the colors, so we're going to spray paint them with some metallic gold. I did pick up some beige bottle brush trees from Dollar Tree, and I think this gold will complement that color really nice. While the bottle brush trees were drying, I hot glued some deer moss onto the board off camera, and then I took the board out and spray painted with some dark walnut. Now starts the fun part is hot gluing these trees to the board. So these are the beige trees that I picked up at like a taupe color at Dollar Tree. I absolutely love them. I thought that they looked quite high end. Maggie and Co even has ones that are a little bit sitting on like a pedestal. But they're pretty much look this exactly the same, and I picked up three of those. Then I had the rest of them on hand, and I just tried to add variety. The at Pottery Barn you can get all just gold, or you can get ones that have a variety of different colored bottle brush trees as well. So that was my inspiration for mine. Since these were the same, I had three of these that were the same color and the same size. I spaced them out evenly, and then I'm going to fill in with all the rest of them. Once they were all on, I added some small battery operated fairy lights to them. I love how these all came together. It gives you that earthy, rustic vibe that my decor is all about this year. And if you want to see how I'm going to style with these, make sure you are subscribed to my home channel where I share all of my decorating videos. Before we jump into our next DIY, I am so excited to tell you that today's video is part of a special collaboration. For my next project, I picked up this wooden tree. I think it's beautiful as it is, a little bit too much sparkle for my liking, but it was coming off just by rubbing it. So if you don't like the little sparkles, little glitter, you could just take it off. I don't think it was even as much of a glitter as it looked like crystal sugar was on it, but nevertheless it was still sparkling, so I wanted to, or glittering, I wanted to take that off a little bit. But like I said, the tree looked really good as was, but I had something in my mind that I wanted to do with it, so if I want to, I'm gonna go pick up another one like this and leave it as is. So I got some cinnamon brown and painted the whole tree except the bottom, actually even the bottom part, this with this cinnamon brown, because I wanted to recreate this gingerbread tree. I absolutely love the way this looks. Now, I could have picked up a very similar looking tree at Dollarama as well that kind of went to the ground and looked more like a ceramic decor piece versus more of the rustic look that this tree has. But I did love the way this tree looked. So I thought I can combine best of both worlds and do this one in that gingerbread tree look. It did only need one coat of paint to cover it all. And then once the paint fully dried, I went in with some puff paint and created a design. I found that this was so much fun to create, and I absolutely enjoyed making this project, so much so that I am thinking about going and getting some more things to add the puff paint to. And here it is. I just love the way it turned out. For your next DIY, this can be absolutely free depending on what you have at home on hand. So we are going to be recreating these bleached pine cones, and set of 15 is $12. Again, not overly expensive, but if we can do it for free, why not? So I did have to go buy bleach because I don't typically have bleach at home. Um, I just buy it when I need it and usually use it all up. So you're going to need something to soak your pine cones in, and I have a variety of styles of pine cones and sizes. And you are also going to have to give yourself time because this took 24 hours plus some drying time. So pretty much 2 day, almost 2 days worth of DIYing. Again, not something that is very involving, and this one you could leave unattended if you wanted to. But for this, you will need also some water, and it will be 2 parts water to 1 part bleach. And then if you saw me trying to fit that plate, and you will need something that will keep the pine cones submerged so they don't pop up, so something heavy to put on top. And this goes without saying that if you are, whenever you're working with bleach, make sure you are very careful so you don't get your clothes bleached or wear clothes that you don't care if they do get bleached. Cover your work area and make sure you wash your hands thoroughly after working with bleach, because that can linger on your hands for a while, and if you touch something, it will bleach it instantly. I did stir them a little bit just to mix them up, just so that way I feel like all of it was covered up with this mixture. And then I add in my plate, and I did leave this out on my deck on top of the fire pit so the dogs wouldn't knock it down. And this is what they looked like once I had took them out 24 hours later. As you can see, some the smaller ones were almost white, some of the bigger ones not so much. I did end up putting them in the oven for about 4 hours at the 200 setting, and then they opened up while they were there. This just speeded up the process of drying. You can also leave them to air dry. And as you can see, the ones that looked brown, once I took them out, were actually a lot more bleached than the smaller ones that were completely white once they came out. I absolutely love the way this turned out. I think it's going to be such a great bowl filler, and it's going to also look great mixed in with just some regular. For my next DIY, I picked up these Dollar Tree bells. They were $1.25. I'm pretty sure every Dollar Tree has these, and I'm going to be recreating this look, although I'm going to be using 3 bells, not 5, because I'm going to be making 2 of them. So I removed all the little embellishments that the bells had, and then I went in with again those three colors: spun gold, um, yellow gold, and then cinnamon. But I'm not going to be painting these. I tried painting them and I felt that the paint wasn't really going on as well as I would like. So I went in and then I ended up dabbing the paint on instead of brushing it on, which you will see in just a minute. And I had to work in stages for this. So I went first with the spun gold, and I only did the top part. The bottom part is a little bit flatter. So I let the bottom so I did the top part and then I let it fully dry before I did the bottom part, and then I repeated the same process with all the paints that I was adding, although I was mixing the next two paints together and dabbing them together at the same time. But I did do one half first and then the next half once it's dried. So this project did take a little bit of time, but the end result is so worth it. For past few years, I have been obsessed with decorating with bells, whether that's the vintage cowbells or just any gold rustic looking bells. And so I wanted to recreate this because I wanted to add something to my outdoor wreath, and which is another project in this DIY video that I will be sharing. And I wanted to spruce up my wreath, but I also wanted to add bells to it. So I decided to make my own to add to it. And I am obsessed with how all those two projects came together and how it looks on my front door. So once they were painted and dried, I went ahead and got some rope. I have just some twine, and I also have some thicker rope that I'm going to be using. And I wanted to make like a door hanger almost on with the rope. So I went ahead and I tied a loop, and then I went with a thicker rope and I wrapped it around and created a little bit of a longer loop at the top, just to kind of recreate that look that the bells or here had. And so that way I can hang them up on my door, I can hang them up on my banister, my mantle, wherever I choose to use them, if I choose to use them outside of my wreath. And as I mentioned before, I am grouping them by three, and I'm making them three different lengths. So when you're cutting your rope, you want to make sure that it's cut different lengths, or that you tie a knot at a different length. And as I mentioned before, I just love the way these guys turned out. And I think it's such an inexpensive project to give you that high-end elevated look. Especially I I've decorated with these white bells before, but I am so feeling the traditional colors this year, along with some vintage and earthy tones, and that is what I'm all of my decor in the house is, with some nostalgic pieces sprinkled in throughout. So if you ever want to check out how I decorate with all of these things, I do have a home channel where I share all that, and it's linked down below. So let me know what you guys think about these guys. Thank you so much for watching and for being part of this amazing community. This is my last full video of 2024, so I want to wish you all a very Merry Christmas, Happy Holidays, and Happy New Year. Take care, friends, and I'll see you in 2025 with even more beautiful high-end DIYs on a budget. Bye for now.